go back to where we started this evening, which is in reaction to that incredible piece of television that Peta Credlin and her team just put together. Michael Kroger, of course, out of lockdown in Melbourne, but joins us back via Skype because, you know, he's a little addicted to it by now. Great man. What did you think about what we just saw on television and some of the central issues about the process, but also the central claim about how uncurious the hotel inquiry is, talking to a person who knows exactly what happened in failures at hotel quarantine?
Well, I thought Peta Credlin was brilliant tonight, and my old sparring partner, Jeff Kennett, was tremendous as well. Credlin focused on a couple of the central points, which are the incuriosity of the inquiry. I mean, who authorised the private security? We still don't know. And if the inquiry, if Judge Coate doesn't get to the bottom of that, then the whole inquiry's been an utter farce. The contract that was signed in 6 hours for $30 million, company in New South Wales that wasn't even on the list, and the schmozzle around private security that we saw, that the fellow from Elite Security, you know, in his 500-page submission said he hasn't even been called. It goes on and on and on. So a total fiasco, and congratulations to Peta Credlin for focusing on those things. She's been brilliant. And as I said, if Judge Coate can't explain those central things, then this inquiry will have been a farce, and there'll be many, many calls in Victoria for a Royal Commission ASAP. And I hope when Michael O'Brien takes over as Premier here that we do get one, because 800 people dying, this is utterly grotesque and unacceptable that Andrews is still there when people were calling on Gladys to resign, for goodness sake.
Well, and again, Liz Storer from Advance Australia with the Trump shirt on. We'll get to that a little bit later. This is the key question, right, which is there is an inquiry on right now that is charged with the responsibility of telling us the story of who knew what and when. There are big holes in what has been publicly discussed about who knew what and when. There seems to have been a very convenient series of people all with the same answer that means they don't have to engage with the central question. But there are some people, including the Premier's Chief of Staff, the subcontractor in the security firms, who take us big steps towards not being able to hide from what's actually happened here.
Yeah, and I just want to repeat what Michael Kroger said there. Hats off to Peta. I mean, a lot of the media has already moved on, especially the ABC. You know, we're seeing headlines like, why Victoria is now the envy of the world, and all this kind of applauding rubbish. Peta's still digging in, getting answers, even when this inquiry can't, because no one's telling them the jolly truth. The point is, the bottom line from all of this is that Premier Dan Andrews is a liar. And he has a whole cabal of liars. And so it's just been one nightmare after another trying to get to the bottom of this. The fact that Peta has found this fellow who said, I did a 500-page submission.
He served it up to them and they chose not to engage with him.
Chose not to engage with it. I wasn't called in to give evidence.
None of the guards were spoken to.
Nothing. It just goes to show this is a massive cover-up. It goes beyond Andrews saying, oh, we weren't offered ADF support, and then we've got footage of him saying, and I'd like to thank Morrison for his offer of aid. We know about those lies, but more and more is now coming out thanks to Peta digging in here and just finding out how bottomless this pit of corruption really is.
Look, the whole hour matters, but just something that really stood out to me again, the subcontractor from the security company that actually was there in the early days doing the work for the company that ended up getting the $30 million contract that, again, very little paperwork, all the rest of it, announced over text message. Here's what he told Peta. Now, remember what he told Peta? He told the inquiry in written form, but the inquiry chose not to ask him to come forward and do it all from the witness box.
Do you know how Unified got the contract?
Text message. How bizarre was that? There's no government contract I've ever heard of awarded via text message, and especially within 48 hours of the starting date. Unified have some very good connections in the government. It was very unorganised. Several companies showed up with people that were untrained. The car park was packed with security guards, and they didn't even know what they were there to do.
Of course, it was very clear in the documentary, and certainly not presented by Sky News, about cover-ups. It's not about that, but it's about accountability, and that's what the inquiry is supposed to be about. The fact that they are not unpeeling that really, really matters.